In this video, I'm going to fill you in on the 3 biggest reasons I buy all of my investment properties in an LLC. Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Sunny and I'm a real estate investor based in Northeast New Jersey. On this channel, we explore tools and strategies that help us live happier, healthier, and of course, wealthier lives. Today, I want to tell you why I don't buy investment properties in my personal name. This isn't necessarily the right way to do things, nor is it advice by any means. This is just what works for my personal situation, and I hope by watching this video, you can determine what's right for you. Let's dive in. The first reason I prefer buying rental property in an LLC is technically the only reason I need: asset protection. Now, asset protection is hard to understand if you never experience the benefits of it. It's kind of like insurance. You don't really need it until you really need it. And if you never needed it before, you might constantly question if it's actually worth it. I want to share a quick story about how keeping my investment properties in an LLC helped me with asset protection. Now, back in October 2014, I opened a franchise restaurant. And when you open a franchise business, you sign something called a franchise agreement. There were 2 major parts to the franchise agreement I signed and personally guaranteed. The first part was keeping the business open for 10 years. And the second part was the weekly royalty fee I owed to the franchisor. Long story short, that business was a dumpster fire from day one. Even in the busiest months, we couldn't turn a profit. It took me 3 years to finally throw in the towel. In October 2017, I locked the doors, turned around, and never looked back. I thought I was done with that business, and then a few months later, I received a letter from the franchisor. It was a lawsuit. They were suing me for the remaining 7 years of royalties owed on the franchise agreement. They calculated the net present value of 7 years of royalty payments to be a little over $60,000. There was absolutely no way I was able or willing to pay that amount of money, so I lawyered up and fought back. When my lawyer asked me what my assets were, I told him the truth. I had a small retirement account, a few $1,000s in my checking account, and a car that was probably worth $2,000 at the time. He then asked if I owned any property. I told him I rent where I live, and any property I control is owned by an LLC. His exact words were, "Smart man, this should be an easy case." After the franchisor's lawyers ran a rather invasive search into my personal assets, they decided to settle my $60,000 debt for just $5,000. That story could have ended very differently if I had any property in my personal name. Now, if I did, the franchisor likely would have obtained a judgment lien against me and recorded that lien against any property I owned in my personal name. Then they would have been able to collect that debt if and when I sold that property. In an extreme case, they might even be able to force me to sell one of my properties in order to recoup their funds. Thankfully, that wasn't the case, and I got away with a settlement that was less than 10% of the original lawsuit claim. I'm glad I learned this lesson early in my real estate investing career, because from that point forward, I made a commitment to buy all of my investment property in an LLC. The second reason I prefer buying rental property in an LLC is because the financing doesn't depend on my personal income. It took me 6 months and 6 different banks to realize traditional lenders hate me. No matter what I did, I couldn't get a loan in my personal name for any of my investment properties. From what I gathered, there were 2 main reasons for this. The first reason was I was self-employed. Banks prefer borrowers with W-2 jobs that provide a consistent paycheck. Second, my tax returns looked like I didn't make any money. Although my top line gross income was decent, I utilized a lot of write-offs that made my net income negative or as close to 0 as possible. That was a problem because traditional lenders use a metric called debt-to-income ratio to decide whether or not a borrower can afford a loan. Most banks won't lend to a borrower whose monthly debt service is greater than 40% of their monthly income. And since my monthly income was close to 0, I wasn't going to qualify for a loan even though the rental property could be self-sufficient. Now, just when I was about to give up, I found a DSCR lender that only funded LLCs. DSCR stands for Debt Service Coverage Ratio. The formula my lender uses for debt service coverage ratio is rent divided by PITIA, which stands for principal, interest, taxes, insurance, and association fees, if any. A DSCR of more than 1.5 is required to get preferred terms. Anything between 1 and 1.5 gets standard terms. The lender I use to finance all of my rental property provides a 30-year fixed rate loan with an interest rate as low as 4%. Now that's comparable to what you'd be getting financing a rental property in your personal name. I can get up to 10 loans or $4 million in combined loan amount as long as the property pays for itself. And the best part is the DSCR lender doesn't require any personal income documentation to make the loan. I'm happy to refer you to my DSCR lender, but you have to do the following. First, smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm. Second, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss my next video. And third, click the DSCR lender link in the description down below. All right, now for the third and final reason I prefer buying investment property in an LLC, ownership structure. One of my favorite quotes is, if you want to go fast, go alone, and if you want to go far, go together. I try to keep a long-term view when it comes to real estate investing, so every property I own is in a partnership LLC. I like to operate in my zone of genius and partner with people who are good at the things that I suck at. That allows both parties to go further together than they could individually. But as you probably already know, things can get hairy in a partnership. That's why it's best to lay out as many expectations as you possibly can before entering into a partnership with anyone, especially if it's a close friend or family member. Those expectations are formalized in something called an operating agreement. Now, the operating agreement is the legal document that 1. Identifies the members of the LLC, 2. Outlines each member's ownership percentage, and 3. Details each member's respective duties within the LLC. Although it's not mandatory to have an operating agreement in states like New Jersey, I can't recommend it highly enough. Because while it's fun to plan who's going to do what when the business is up and running, another key component of an operating agreement is having a plan in place if things go sideways. Relationships can be ruined if there isn't a well thought out exit strategy. It's much more difficult to formalize this process when buying a property in your personal name and splitting responsibilities with someone else. It's also going to be difficult to split equity with a partner if a property is only in one person's name. And it hardly makes sense to put the property in two people's names because anyone who signs for the debt will be negatively impacted on their DTI ratio. When an LLC takes on debt, it doesn't impact the members' DTI ratios at all. I hope you enjoyed this video. To recap, I buy all of my investment properties in an LLC for 3 main reasons. 1, asset protection. 2, the financing doesn't depend on my personal income. And 3, customized ownership structure. Before you leave, be sure to check out the description below. You'll find a few links diving deeper into some of the topics discussed in today's video, like the time I got sued by my franchisor, or 3 reasons why traditional lenders hate me. Also, don't forget, if you need a DSCR lender to fund your next purchase or refinance for a rental property held in an LLC, there's a link for that as well in the description down below. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click the notification bell. I put out a new video every single Sunday and I don't want you to miss the next one. In the meantime, check out my real estate and business playlist for more videos like this one. See you next week.